Hey everybody, Pastor Vern for January 18th, 2021. It is a Monday. We are back at it for the week. This is probably going to be the last of the disciple um, segments that we have. We we've got some other things we could talk about there, but some of the what's left to talk about the disciples and who they are and what their role was is either very lacking in information, or else in the case of one of the disciples, the only thing we really know about him is his name is mentioned in the scriptures. And so I think we're going to wrap this disciple thing up with today with Peter. Now, Peter has got to be the most famous of the disciples. He is probably the one that people can identify the most readily. He was part of the inner circle, of course, and he was the one that Jesus said that he would build his church on. He was going to be Peter, the rock, also known as Simon. You know, he was one of the fishermen brothers that left their nets in order to follow Jesus. And he's got this really up and down relationship with Jesus's ministry. You know, one minute he's walking on water, the next minute he's sinking in doubt. He says he would never deny Jesus, and then he does three times at the time of the crucifixion. He had as far as we can tell, a very fiery personality. He dearly loved Christ, and he wanted to hold on to all the special things that he knew about them, and he had a special place in the 12. And he stands often as a spokesman for the group, the unofficial leader of this band of Jesus's followers. Last or 2 weeks ago on Sunday, I mentioned him in a sermon as being someone who went out to stand for the gospel right after the time of Pentecost, when he knew that this was a dangerous thing to do. He is one of the few that of the three that got to experience the transfiguration of Christ as he was going through his time of ministry, and the extraordinary revelation that of Jesus that was seen through this. After the resurrection, he became a bold evangelist and missionary, and one of the great leaders of the early church, passionate until the end of his time. He was sentenced to death by crucifixion, and he requested that his head be turned towards the ground because he didn't feel worthy to be crucified in the same manner as the Savior. Even with all his boldness and his courage and his tumultuous personality, when it came to the Savior, to his relationship with Jesus, he was very humbled right to the end. You know, we've talked about our group of disciples, the extraordinary things that they witnessed, the extraordinary things that they did, the extraordinary place that they have in history. But see, they're really not so much that as they are the legacy of the church that should lead us to be disciples. Here was a group of people who were willing to give up, well, it turns out, except for John maybe, their very lives for the gospel. They certainly turned themselves, their lives, and those around them upside down as they left their businesses, their nets, their relationships to some extent with their families, and to follow Jesus. We have to believe that there was times when they would be returned home and do the things they needed to do to be a part of their families. But any time that you travel for 3 years, dedicating yourself to the knowledge, the truth, and learning and growing in that way, and being part of all these miracles and mysteries, it had to be a tremendous sacrifice. and they were rewarded with, for their earthly reward was often to be persecuted, condemned. I guess maybe at the end of this time that we've talked about are the early Christians, the disciples. We ought to take a moment just to put ourselves in their sandals, I guess you would say, and say, what if it was I who was called? And knowing that we are all called into some sort of ministry, am I answering the call? That's something for you to pray about. Take good care of yourselves. Watch out for others the best you can and stay safe. We'll talk to you later.